G'day guys and gal. No, don't worry, this isn't drama, I haven't killed anyone or said any slurs or anything. At least not on camera. There is, however, quite an interesting and almost unprecedented situation happening in the miniature space right now. Games Workshop is suing Ghamak, one of the largest third-party miniature companies in the world, featuring a team of 12 modelers who have produced thousands of models and licensed their models to dozens of stores. There is a very high chance you've seen a Ghamak model, even if you didn't realize it at the time. Now, as someone who owns my own miniature company and has spoken with the GW legal team in the past, more than once, I am uniquely qualified to speak on this situation and offer my thoughts to give you a bigger perspective on things, with the hope that we can figure out if this is a case of GW bullying a small team of modelers, seeing if they can get away with it as a first step to copyright slamming the entire third-party miniature industry, or if Ghamak was taking the piss with their models and GW has finally had enough and is rightfully protecting their IP. Now, GW throwing around its lawyers doesn't sound unprecedented, but actually going ahead with the lawsuit is. Usually they just threaten you and you either comply and they move on, or you tell them to suck eggs and they also move on. Them going ahead is actually pretty wild. I will be unbiased in this video. Some people think I'm on GW's payroll and I'm like a secret shill for them, which is retarded. GW don't even have a functioning influencer program, let alone dark money under the table. And I've always called them out when I think they've gone too far. However, I also believe that just because you're a big company and Ghamak is a small company, that Ghamak isn't immediately to all criticisms and can do no wrong. The purpose of this video is to draw attention to the matter and provide all perspectives on it, because regardless of who is in the right or wrong, more people being aware of it is never a bad thing. Let's get into it. So Ghamak released a video detailing the situation, his previous interactions with GW, and how it appears that GW is going ahead with the lawsuit, posting his GoFundMe to help with the legal fees. I'll have his video linked below, and if you want to support him, the link to his GoFundMe is on that video. For the sake of simplicity, we're going to assume that everything Ghamak says in his video is 100% accurate. Ghamak says that in 2023, GW reached out and does the usual GW legal strategy. They say, fuck you, you're infringing, here's a big scary letter, remove most of your models and suck my penis. After all, I got a similar letter a number of years ago, so did a number of other people. For some people, especially smaller modelers, they will freak out and instantly comply. However, most will come to some sort of agreement. For me, I removed a number of my models that I agree probably went too far in the inspiration department, and I also removed all STLs from my store. Keep that second point in mind. It's very important and I'll come back to it. GW accepted this and we haven't had an issue since. However, in Ghamak's case, GW went pretty hard, asking for 90% of the models to be taken down, for Ghamak to hand over all their data and creative rights, and GW refused to speak to them beyond just big scary legal letters. In this instance, it's clear GW just wanted to smash Ghamak, as opposed to getting a level of submission that they could take to the exec team and be like, we got another one to fall in line. Ghamak refused, and often in these situations, GW will just sort of move on, as it's not really worth their time. And I'll explain why they do that in a bit. I just want to finish giving you the context of the situation first. But in this case, GW filed the lawsuit as they do have the copyright and whatnot for EU, and Ghamak is in Italy. They did not file for copyright infringement, but for unfair competition, which is an interesting one we'll discuss more on. Ghamak frames this as GW coming for small independent creators, flexing control in an industry that it doesn't own, with a warning that if Ghamak falls easily, GW will be emboldened to then target all the artists and small companies that make sci-fi or fantasy miniatures, which may even include major minis. Something that I do love is Ghamak saying that he wants this to go to court, not just to protect himself, but because a court can set a true precedent about how far GW's rights extend and where the artistic freedom and inspiration can begin and be safe. This is a huge point because at the moment it's such a massive grey area. At the end of the day, GW didn't invent elves, dwarves, sci-fi super soldiers, golden warriors, flaming swords, demons, orcs, insectoid cosmic hungering horrors, and so on. Warhammer itself was massively inspired by Lord of the Rings, Dune, and even Star Wars, so it is a bit of an eyebrow raiser when they try to act like they are the source of all sci-fi and fantasy tropes and designs. For example, the Big E model is a big golden warrior wielding a flaming sword and has a king's cloak and kinda looks like a sexy version of Jesus. None of those aspects by themselves are original GW concepts or designs. But there is a line. You can't just say, well, GW doesn't own sci-fi, so I can make my own space marines in the exact same style as theirs and expect no consequences. Does Ghamak cross that line? For a large chunk of their range, no, not at all. Their Akai Shogunate models represent mythological feudal Japan and are awesome. I would even say that their Siderim Knights, despite obviously being Space Marine proxies, are also fine. Their style is different, their proportions are different, they seem to be like a fresh take and not just a 3D printable GW Space Marine army. But some of their models do take the piss, mostly their Heretic Knight models. Their Hellbrutes and Obliterators are very similar to official models, as is their Demon Prince. The Belial proxy is also a bit on the nose, alongside a number of their other Dark Angel inspired models. Now, based on my own experience, sense, why is Ghamak getting hit so hard whilst other modelers aren't? Why is GW not coming after me? After all, a lot of other models have also made very inspired models. Well, it's two reasons. The first is that Ghamak offers the STLs for all of his minis. That's his business model. Either his Patreon members who get the minis, or people buying the STLs from My Mini Factory or Colts 3D or whatever, or from Ghamak leasing his models to stores who 3D print and sell his models, like on Etsy or websites like Wargame Exclusive. It's all STL based. GW hates STLs. See, GW knows that no one can really compete with them truly in the physical miniature market. They have insane, amazing, expensive machines, insanely efficient large-scale processors. GW Plastic is awesome. They are dominant in the market because their models are dope, not just in terms of design but also in quality. 3D printing has come a long way and the detail and quality is insane, and you can get incredible resin casted models, but the GW Plastic is just another level. The barrier to entry into that market is so cost prohibitive that no one can really compete to that level, so people buy GW models despite the insane GW price tags. However, the STLs are the one thing that GW doesn't sell and cannot compete with, which is what I believe they are referring to when they say unfair competition. Ghamak making GW proxies and then selling those files to people who can print entire Warhammer armies at next to no cost is what is really ruffling their feathers. If Ghamak was a physical store that didn't sell STLs, I can almost guarantee they wouldn't have been contacted, and if they were, it wouldn't have then led to a lawsuit. This is also why GW isn't coming after the stores selling physical Ghamak models. They aren't worried about physical model competitors, just the STL ones. The second issue is Ghamak's approach to what models they make. For major minis, we make models that are inspired by characters that don't have their own models, such as Ra, or maybe the models are out of production or old as shit, such as the Shark Daddy, or are inspired by a blend of IPs, such as the Chaotic Lich Lord or the Grey Slayer, or they are just entirely unique designs, such as the Wolf Master of the Hunt. We don't make one-to-one proxies of modern GW models. In fact, we often delist our models, such as our Space Elf Avenger Lord, when GW releases their version. And that is without GW contacting us. We want you to use our models to enrich your army and make it unique, not just to replace it. Ghamak's approach, on the other hand, is more along the lines of, why pay $1,000 for the GW army when you can get the proxy STL files for $100 and $50 worth of resin? I'm not saying that makes him a bad person or anything, but I just want to give context on why someone like Ghamak is a target for GW, whereas other companies like Major Minis are not. As probably a better example than Major Minis, Grimskull Miniatures are very inspired, yet because they sell their models exclusively as physicals and they're selling unique hero units as opposed to proxy armies, they aren't really what GW is worried about. In my own honest opinion, I think GW should have been more forthcoming with the dialogue, as opposed to just sending an insane letter of demand followed up by a lawsuit. That's just a dog move. That kind of behavior honestly really hurts GW's approach to this. There are ways to go about things. Yeah, there are definitely models in Ghamak's catalog that take the piss a bit. Yes, I can understand why GW isn't happy that another company is releasing a fully 3D printable army that closely resembles theirs and can be a cheap knockoff replacement, but swinging their lawyers' dongs around just isn't a good look, nor is the way they should approach it. Either way, I'm interested to see how this will go, and the precedent set will be a great indicator for the rest of the industry. As I said, Ghamak's video will be linked below, and his GoFundMe link is on that video as well. Honestly, I might even donate to it myself, despite me being somewhat on the fence, just purely so Ghamak has the fees to get to court and set the legal precedents. Anyway, hope you learned something. Back to the regular law programming. Peace.